Most therapists who are learning ACT come from a CBT background, and that training creates one very specific blind spot. When a client comes in anxious, for example, the instinct is to reduce the anxiety. That's the goal, right? It's symptom reduction. Except in ACT, that instinct is exactly what keeps the client stuck. Now, I'm going to show you what the model is actually teaching and how to shift your approach starting in your very next session. So if you appreciate these kind of videos and learning ACT, go ahead and gently tap the like button and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get into it. So let's start with where most of us have come into ACT with, and that is CBT. Now CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and it's built around the relationship between three things: our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. It makes this nice triangle. And the idea is that these three are constantly interacting. And if we interrupt or change how they interact, we change how the client feels. Now, thoughts come in and we challenge those. We try to restructure those. We try to replace them with a new belief. And then relief follows. It's logical, it's structured, and it works, right? Well, CBT is one of the gold standards for anxiety, depression, and a range of other presenting problems. And ACT is like a sister of CBT, or maybe a daughter is a better way to look at it. So I want to be clear about this. I'm not coming against CBT and saying that it's wrong. It's just what it gets wrong is that it focuses on relief rather than acceptance. So here's where it gets complicated for therapists, whether you're just getting started in graduate school or as an intern, associate level, or fully licensed therapist. You see, a lot of us had supervisors who were trained in different modalities. So they were trained in CBT or DBT or MI or other solid evidence-based modalities. And these are all great frameworks. They all have benefits. But each one has its own goals and objectives, and those goals don't always transfer cleanly to ACT, and sometimes they get in the way and we make mistakes. In CBT, the clinical target is often symptom reduction, decreasing the anxiety and depressive symptoms. We want to interrupt the thought pattern, and we want to increase positive emotional experiences and well-being. And again, these are not bad goals. These are generally helpful outcomes. The problem isn't the outcomes itself. The problem is when the therapist carries their own agenda into the room, the agenda to reduce the client's symptoms. Because the moment that becomes your goal as a therapist, you've actually made anxiety the enemy. And ACT says that is exactly the wrong move, because anxiety is not the enemy, it's the struggle, it's the attempt to control it. That is the real issue. And so this is where ACT fundamentally disagrees with this idea that we must challenge or change a thought in order to change how we feel. That is the CBT premise. And ACT looks at this premise and says, no, we don't have to change how we think or feel in order to move forward. We actually have to accept that we have these thoughts and feelings in order to move toward what matters. Now that shift is subtle, but it really changes everything in how you sit with a client. There's also a broader framework here. Now, this is what I would call the medical model of mental health. Now, the default clinical goal in most treatment plans is to decrease symptoms. And what we mean by that is we want to decrease anxiety. We want to decrease depression. We want to increase functioning in important life areas. And while those outcomes matter, when they become the primary target, the focus stays on what's wrong instead of where the client wants to go. Now, this is the disease model of medicine that looks at what's wrong and tries to make it right. And ACT has a little different spin on it. It focuses on where the client wants to go and what's important. So what happens is that the therapist ends up chasing symptom relief. The client ends up waiting to feel better before they start living. And that wait can go on for a long time. Now, I just want to take a quick break here because I've actually developed a protocol for clients that need help. They need a more structured sessions, or therapists that want to find out ways that they can better structure their sessions. So it's a free resource called the ACT Roadmap, and it walks you through how to use the ACT model with real clients from the first session all the way to the termination session. So you're not just improvising in the room. So go ahead and click the link in the description below, and it's also in the pinned comment. So what does ACT actually ask you to do instead? Well, it asks you to help the client accept that these thoughts and feelings are present. We open up. So we're not fighting them, we're not trying to fix them, and we're not waiting for them to leave, and then we move forward to a life that matters. You know, we have to then try to figure out how do we move forward even if these anxiety doesn't change, even if the depression doesn't lift. The focus stays on the direction, not the symptom reduction. Now here's what's important to understand. The feelings do change. You know, as clients move toward the life they want, toward their values, toward meaningful actions, the anxiety and depression shift. I like to imagine that there's like a red lettered sign that's going across our foreheads. And if you have anxiety, the sign is saying, do something, do something, do something. When in reality, it's the right action that we need to do. But anxiety just wants us to do something. And depression tends to have a red lettered sign that says, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing. And we want to take inaction. And none of those are going to resolve it. It's all about getting moving and moving toward what matters. So we're not making anxiety the enemy here. We're moving with it, alongside it, towards something that matters more. And that's the reframe your clients need. And honestly, it's the reframe a lot of us therapists need too, especially those of us who were taught that our job is to help people feel better. I mean, in ACT, the job is to help people feel better, but it's to live better. And feeling better often follows that, just not always first. So if you've been sitting in sessions and you're wondering why your ACT work feels like it's pulling in two directions, it may be because the CBT goal is still running in the background. It's the agenda that is the mistake. Now, it's not a flaw here. This is actually part of your training, and these are things that you automatically do. And so I want to bring this to your attention so that we can correct that by focusing on what matters and helping the client move in the direction of their values, rather than focusing on the wrong target, the wrong goal, and the wrong outcome, which is just symptom reduction. If this anxiety or depression were to vanish, what would the client be doing? And that's the life that we want to highlight and help them move toward it. So now that you can name it, you can now work with it. Now, if you want to see how to structure your ACT sessions from beginning to end, I have a playlist here that you're welcome to click on and go from session 0 all the way to session 10.